along a special scenic park. The lion jumps, the sea lion eats, and Tina hears fantastic beats. We move the South Pole here for you, and don't forget to Prince Shamu. It's all at SeaWorld. It's all at SeaWorld. There isn't any other place that puts a smile upon your face as much as SeaWorld. It's all at SeaWorld.
Since 1959, SeaWorld has been a somewhat dominant company when it comes to theme parks and days out, ranking 9th in the most visited entertainment companies in the world back in 2018. SeaWorld has only grown stronger over time. While the reputation of SeaWorld may seem strong to most, it's become apparent over recent years that the company harbours darker secrets. These are the SeaWorld incidents. Now, because there's so many, it would only be right of us to go from the first recorded incident all the way up to today. Some of the incidents won't have an absolute ton of detail. However, there will be a couple of incidents where a large amount of detail will be included. I think you know where I'm going with this, and yes, we will be talking about that in detail too. Let's get straight into the video. Python, Busch Gardens, Tampa. A few weeks after this roller coaster opened, in 1976, a 39-year-old man died after riding. The tagline, "I challenged the Python and lived," was removed shortly after this incident. Guest altercation at SeaWorld San Diego. October the 11th, 1979. A visitor is shot and wounded by a security guard after making a motion that looked like he was reaching for a weapon. This shooting was found to be justifiable, meaning the man was indeed carrying a weapon. Big Bad Wolf, Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. 2nd of August, 1984. This ride was temporarily shut down as one of its coasters fell from the track. Luckily, during a maintenance check, no injuries to any passengers or staff were present. However, the poor coaster did suffer damage to its fiberglass. I hope it had a quick recovery. Loch Ness Monster, Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. June the 13th, 1989. 5 guests are injured after the ride clashes with a tree at 15 miles per hour. The tree had been blown onto the track by a storm. The crash happened on a slight right turn, and apparently there were 25 passengers on board the ride at the time, one of whom was a 16-year-old boy who suffered from a broken leg, and 4 others treated for minor injuries. Eagle One Monorail, Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. August the 11th, 1990. A 19-year-old mother throws her 4-month-old daughter out of the monorail. The baby falls 8 meters, but luckily survives the fall. The baby was tossed over the monorail fence during an argument between the wife and the 18-year-old father. The mother tried to make the excuse that the baby slipped out of her arms. However, due to the height of the fence, this was hugely disregarded. Apparently the mother threw the baby, as she stated to the father that she could do whatever she wanted to her baby, therefore throwing her baby to prove a point. Both the mother and father were charged with child endangerment. Roman Rapids, Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. July the 10th, 1991. A 46-year-old woman hurts her knee after falling off the ride's platform. and into a raft. Roman Rapids, Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. July the 26th, 1991. A woman slips and fractures her wrist after falling from the observation deck while trying to watch her family ride one of the rafts. The rides were all recently shut down due to bad weather, resulting in the woman slipping due to a slippery surface. Big Bad Wolf, Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. May the 2nd, 1993. A 63-year-old employee is hit in the head by a suspended roller coaster while fixing a camera. The man died a day later due to the injuries. Loch Ness Monster, Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. June the 3rd, 1993. Two riders claim that the misting water effect on the ride was temporarily blinding and causes emotional distress. A park manager responded with the mist only spraying water, and that's it. Coomba, Busch Gardens, Tampa. June the 10th, 1995. A 13-year-old girl dies shortly after riding Coomba due to a rare heart condition that triggered a heart attack. Her mother sued the park and won $500,000, in which it was found that the park reacted to the girl slowly. The reward amount was reduced to $350,000, as the court deemed the mother to be 30% responsible for the death of her daughter. The reason her daughter might have died of a heart attack: drug use during the mother's pregnancy. Surfers Bay, Water County, USA. August the 6th, 1996. A 39-year-old man is shot in the back by a bullet while in the wave pool. He was taken to the park's first aid station, then hospitalised, but went on to make a full recovery. SeaWorld, Ohio. August the 17th, 1996. An 18-foot-long motorboat flies into an audience of 4,000 people and injures 22, aged from 4 years old to 78 years old. 4 were put in a critical condition. This was part of a Baywatch ski show, and the motorboat crashed due to a mechanical failure. Coomba, Busch Gardens, Tampa. December the 29th, 1996. Passengers on board a train were evacuated after the ride was stopped 100 feet in the air. 5 people were taken to hospital after complaining about back pain from the ride. Apollo's Chariot, Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. March the 27th, 1999. A stray goose collides with the front chariot, in which Italian actor named Fabio Lanzioni was seated. Fabio only suffered a minor cut to his nose, leaving him with a bloody nose at the end of the ride. Montu, Busch Gardens, Tampa. May the 4th, 2000. A 30-year-old man dies after suffering from a heart attack on the roller coaster. The victim had a pre-existing heart ailment. Rhino Rally, Busch Gardens, Tampa. June the 27th, 2001. A vehicle overturns along the attraction's track. Multiple people suffer minor injuries, and 2 were taken to hospital. East of Africa, Busch Gardens, Tampa. May the 12th, 2002. A 21-year-old zookeeper has her arm bitten off by a lion at the elbow, as she was giving her family a behind-the-scenes tour of the ride. Big Bad Wolf, Williamsburg. March the 1st, 2003. A hired painter was killed while painting the Big Bad Wolf ride. The ride he was painting is a high-reach vehicle which overturned. The man died before any help could reach him. SeaWorld, Busch Gardens, Tampa. October the 15th, 2005. A problem occurred with the ride's air compressor system. Passengers were stranded on the ride for almost an hour until they were rescued. Gwazi, Busch Gardens, Tampa. July the 24th, 2006. A 52-year-old man dies shortly after riding Gwazi. The man was having trouble breathing and soon collapsed. The victim was pronounced dead 2 hours later after CPR failed. The man was confirmed to have suffered from high blood pressure and the hardening of the arteries. The ride was shut for an hour to perform maintenance. Discovery Cove, January the 29th, 2009. A 59-year-old man from Manchester, England, dies after cutting his toe on coral while swimming with fish. The man was a haemophiliac and was diagnosed with septic shock and organ failure. Both legs were amputated below the knee to prevent infections. The death was ruled as an accident. Skyride, Busch Gardens, Tampa. July the 18th, 2009. A 20-year-old employee, Maikon Bonani, falls 35 feet from the attraction. He was making sure the gondola door was closed as the ride set off, but, as a result, was carried 50 feet before falling 35 feet down. No guests were injured, however, Maikon was taken to a hospital. Griffon, Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. August the 5th, 2010. A 14-foot long prop, while deflating, is blown away by a strong wind, in which it collides with one of the Griffon's trains. 5 guests are sent to hospital. It was stated by the park that the storm was too far away to close down the attraction, even though some older rides were already being shut down. The ride did, however, continue, with lightning no more than 10 miles away. Aquatica Park, Orlando, Florida. October the 4th, 2010. A 68-year-old man from Manchester, United Kingdom, was found unresponsive on the Rower Rapids ride. The man was taken to hospital, but pronounced dead upon arrival. It was soon found that he died of natural causes. Discovery Cove, August the 16th, 2011. 3 guests and 5 employees are injured after lightning struck inside the cove. All 8 people were taken to hospital and released the next day. The pools were evacuated before the incident, and people were sheltering in different areas around Discovery Cove. Adventure Island, Tampa Bay. September the 10th, 2011. A 21-year-old lifeguard was killed by lightning while clearing guests from the Key West Rapids Tower ride. None of the guests were harmed. However, this influenced a weather warning system to be put into place for this particular park. The Cheetah Hunt Ride, Busch Gardens, Tampa. February the 13th, 2014. After dispatching from the station, this ride malfunctioned, causing 16 passengers to be stranded 60 feet or 18 meters in the air for a whole hour. All riders were evacuated with no injuries. Tempesto, Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. June the 29th, 2015. Oh, edit that out. A 17-year-old girl's shoulder collar comes loose during the ride. The park shuts down the ride for 15 minutes, but profusely states that the collar is just for comfort rather than safety. SeaWorld, Busch Gardens, Tampa. May the 12th, 2016. The ride malfunctions, causing it to stop. 24 riders are left stranded 200 feet or 61 metres in the air for almost 2 hours. All passengers were escorted off safely and the ride reopened 4 days later. Stanleyville, Busch Gardens, Tampa. July the 1st, 2016. An orangutan escapes from its pen. The park was put on lockdown, with the guests being evacuated. This was the second orangutan escape within a 1-month period, with the first escape being in Jungala. Orlando Aquatica Park, 15th of July 2017. A 59-year-old man from Savannah, Georgia, was also found unresponsive on the Roller Rapids ride. He died the day after being admitted to hospital, where it was found that he'd had a history of health problems. SeaWorld San Antonio's parking lot incident. June the 24th, 2018. A 5-year-old girl is killed after being run over by a white pickup truck in the San Antonio SeaWorld parking lot. At 8 PM, the little girl was desperate to get to the car, so she ran across the parking lot, being separated from her parents. The driver ran over her, causing a fatality at the scene. San Antonio, Texas Aquatica Park. 1st of July 2018. A woman was found to be unresponsive on the Wahala Wave water slide. The woman was given CPR by the lifeguards until she was eventually taken to hospital. It isn't clear whether she died or not. Gunfire incident at Busch Gardens, Tampa. July the 4th, 2018. A 36-year-old man was hit by a falling bullet from celebratory gunfire while visiting Busch Gardens with his wife during Independence Day at around 10 PM. During the fireworks, the man began to feel pain in the shoulder. The man was admitted to a nearby hospital where he was treated for injuries. Sesame Place, Pennsylvania. July the 5th, 2018. A water main breaks, causing the park to close early, and many businesses within Sesame Place to temporarily close. The park was reopened 2 days later, on the 7th. Apollo's Chariot, Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. July the 15th, 2018. A family from Virginia suffer injuries from the ride as one of the ride operators accidentally presses the emergency stop button, causing them to suffer from concussions the day after. Escape from Pompeii, Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. July the 1st, 2018. A small fire starts on the roof of the attraction at around 8:15 PM. Luckily, the ride wasn't operating at the time of the fire. The firefighters responded quickly, and the fire was soon extinguished. The ride reopens a few days later. Busch Gardens Railway, Williamsburg. August the 16th, 2018. A fire starts at the Caribou train station near the Invader roller coaster and Le Scoot log flume at around 3:30 PM. An employee suffers minor injuries and is taken for medical treatment and checked for 3rd-degree burns. Bayside Skyride, SeaWorld San Diego. February the 18th, 2019. 16 guests are stranded on 5 gondolas when a strong gust of wind stopped the ride from working. It took almost 4 hours for all of the guests to be evacuated. San Antonio, Texas Aquatica Park. August the 1st, 2019. An incident occurred at the Big Surf Shores where a 33-year-old man had a cardiac arrest riding the park's wave pool. The man was taken to hospital and later died. Pantheon, Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. October the 24th, 2019. At around 8 AM, the local fire department reported that a worker fell and suffered injuries while working on the park's newest roller coaster at the time, Pantheon. The worker was airlifted and hospitalised. Sesame Place, Pennsylvania. August the 9th, 2020. During the COVID pandemic, a 17-year-old employee was punched in the face after asking a man and a woman to wear a face mask. The employee had jaw and tooth injuries and was hospitalised for a week. Sesame Place, Pennsylvania. July 2022. The park faced criticism after one of the park's characters ignored an Afro-American girl as they waved to her. The incident was recorded, and it was found that the other characters ignored other children of colour. The actors blamed it on the prostitutes then. Jesus. The actors blamed it on the prostitutes. The actors blamed it on the costumes, making it hard to see the children. The actors stated that they refused a request for the girl to be picked up by the character, which the park's actors aren't allowed to do. The family were apologised to and brought in for a personal meet and greet with the characters, as well as making the actors undergo racial bias training. So, you probably think that's it, right? A lot of things happened here in these parks. Surely nothing else scandalous and even worse than most of the things above happened, right? Well, I sort of left the worst until last. Remember when Netflix released a documentary back in 2020? This documentary was called Blackfish. It was released initially in around 2013, but only came onto UK Netflix in 2020. I watched this after release and I had a lot to say on this. Now I'll go into the two big incidents and a smaller one, but there was quite a lot of detail to this section. Now it is something that could be covered in its own video, but while we're here, we may as well talk about it now. The documentary focused mainly on the conditions and working of its orcas, specifically an orca named Tilikum. So as I said, the documentary focuses on two main incidents as well as the scandal of both the SeaWorld company hiding things as well as blaming one of the trainers for her own death, which in itself is sickening. They also kept their orcas in tiny areas, not enabling them to move around as they'd like, meaning one orca in particular started getting very angry by the name of Tilikum. So the first incident happened on July the 9th, 1999, in which a naked man was found in the pool in which Tilikum inhabited, draped over him, dead. Now it was widely believed that the man died due to drowning. However, signs of a struggle and other trauma were also apparent during the autopsy. There wasn't anything chewed or bitten off, but there were cuts and bruises indicating that the orca may have had a bit of fun with the man after he died. Now, puncture wounds were also found, as well as his ripped open scrotum, as well as small body parts from the victim being found at the bottom of the pool. The second incident, and probably the more notable one, happened on February the 24th, 2010. A 40-year-old trainer named Dawn Branshaw was killed by Tilikum, the orca involved in the first incident back in 1999. Now Dawn had 15 years of trainer experience, meaning that she knew what she was doing. It was apparent that Tilikum had pulled her into the water by her ponytail, resulting in her drowning. Her scalp was also reported to have been removed. Now this was actually the third time Tilikum was involved in a human death. The shows with orcas continued, however the trainers were told specifically not to join them in the water. So both those situations, they're pretty bad, right? Now, what if I told you that the death of Dawn was blamed mostly on herself? SeaWorld claimed that Dawn was the cause of her own death due to a mistake that she'd made in the water, and they just failed to take responsibility for any part in the accident whatsoever. I have very little respect for the company after viewing the Blackfish documentary. Now, for me personally, it really just seals the deal for how little companies give a fuck about their employees, and will try and do anything to shift the blame away from themselves. Viewing this documentary made me want to look more into the incidents at SeaWorld, and looking into them now, it seems like their main failures are to do with the timing of getting to people in trouble and not being able to take responsibility for their part of the blame. All in all, it's a real shame that SeaWorld has this reputation. Hopefully, somewhere in the future, they can realise that they've made mistakes. But for now, they just seem like a company who don't want to lose money, rather than a company who values their employees and customers. And that's all I've really got to say about the SeaWorld incidents. Thank you guys so much for watching this one. Stay safe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.